So hi, everyone who is here for the lunch session. This is Brittany Sartor, who's an undergrad at the Haas School of Business. She's studying business administration and plant-based food science. Prior to her role as a program manager for the Plant Futures Initiative, she worked as a professional chef, co-authored the Wholesome Culture cookbook, and won numerous food-related competitions and awards, including the Alt Meat Challenge Lab, who with Ricardo's course, who we saw speak today, the SCET Collider Cup, and the televised cooking competition show The Big Dish. Currently, in addition to being part of the Plant Futures team, she is also a lead food scientist for Modern Kebab, a Berkeley-based startup working to create plant-based Iranian and Turkish kebabs. Coming from a family of cattle ranchers and hunters, her main passion is using biomimicry to increase the appeal and acceptance of plant-based alternatives, though she loves cooking and baking any sort of plant-based comfort food. Today, she'll be showing us all how to prepare barbecue pulled pork burgers using king oyster mushrooms. I'm so excited for this session, Brittany, and thank you as well for all the incredible work you put into planning this event. It's been so fun working with you. And
same to you. It's been a journey.
It really has, yeah. It's so crazy to finally be here.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, thank you so much, Sam. So yeah, I'm making barbecue pulled pork burgers. So mushrooms are actually really great for that. I feel a little bit like I'm breaking the rules since this is Plant Futures and mushrooms are technically fungi, but we're gonna go with it. I think I'll just get started. So I'm gonna tilt my camera down so we can actually see. And then if anyone has any random questions or I'm going too fast or anything, please feel free to just let me know in the chat. I can't see my screen super strongly, but I'll try to see it. And maybe Sam can let me know. Actually, wait, I'll not do that first. So for the mushrooms, the bottom part of it is really, really tough. And so depending on the size of king oyster mushrooms that you have, you definitely want to cut some of that off. I'd say that an inch is a good rule of thumb, but for the smaller one, it might not need quite an inch. For the bigger one, it might need an inch and a half. So kind of just depends on which size you get. I've seen some ones that are massive that are probably 9 inches, and those ones tend to use 2 inches. That part, you'll basically not be able to chew it. So I would definitely ditch that part and cut it off. That's the first step. So this step is kind of boring. Basically, you'll just be cutting off all the tips, and then you're going to be using a fork to shred them. And so it's kind of a tedious process. You get a little bit of an arm workout. But yeah, if anyone has any questions now, I have some time to kill as I do the tedious process of shredding.
Yeah, and just to mention, you can maximize Brittany's screen by double-clicking on her screen. That way my screen will shrink. I'm just hanging out here to facilitate Q&A. So that might make viewing a little bit easier.
All right, so got all the bottom parts cut off. And so then for the shredding, what I found is easiest is kind of just hold on, grip onto it like that, and then just take the fork and just go down like that. I don't know if, can you see that? Okay, great.
Yeah, we can see that, Brittany. And we got our first question from the audience. They would love to hear about your past experiences as a chef.
So my last job, I actually worked for just a local company that had about 40 employees, and only one of them was vegan. And so I really enjoyed it because most of them were really skeptic, but they wanted basically the CEO was vegan, and he wanted everyone to have plant-based meals because he wanted them, and it was kind of it wasn't forced upon anyone, but they would be there. And I really enjoyed it because I got complete free reign of basically what to make. Sometimes I'd get some requests for some pizzas or lasagna or something. Oh, by the way, so after you kind of run through it with the fork, sometimes you might have to do it twice, but then it should just be able to be like broken up with your hand really easily. And it turns into these nice shreds.
Brittany, you're very popular. You have a lot of people tuning in for the session, by the way.
But yeah.
We did have more questions coming in.
Awesome.
Let's see. Why do you like king oyster mushrooms? I have not used them before. And then someone else asked where you can find oyster mushrooms. Haven't seen those at my local market.
So I'd say that the most affordable place that you can get them, and where they always are that I found, is Asian supermarkets. Some specialty markets like, Sprouts and Whole Foods will always have them too. My local Safeway also sells them. But yeah, they wouldn't really be like noticeable if you weren't looking for them specifically. I like to use them because they're large, and so you get a lot of the stem part that makes it seem a lot more like pulled pork, as opposed to just some mushrooms are more of the calf part. Mushrooms obviously have a really umami flavor, which is great when you're trying to replicate meat without it really being a plant-based alternative, having it actually just be something that naturally is like that. And yeah, I'd say that it would be hard to make a pulled pork out of just like, a portobello or something, but these shred really easily and make it kind of like shredded pork.
Yeah, and Sonali said that they're available at Berkeley Bowl as well if you're in the East Bay. I think I've seen them before too. James,
so yeah, it ends up, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to mention James from the audience asked, what are your favorite plant-based restaurants?
Oh, that's a tough one. I love Butcher's Son in Berkeley. I also love Cinnaholic in Berkeley, but I don't know if that would be considered a restaurant or a bakery. But huge fans of that. I haven't got a chance to try the King's Feet, which is like the new Italian restaurant by the people who made Butcher's Son, but I'm hoping once, the pandemic ends and I get back to Berkeley, I can try that.
It's really good. I tried it for the first time about a month ago. It was phenomenal. Definitely recommend it. And I've definitely had Cinnaholic as a meal. So
exactly. They have pizza rolls now, so it's kind of like,
I haven't tried those yet. But... And Brittany, do you have any favorite plant-based chefs?
That's a tough one. I mean, I feel like I like all the plant-based chefs. This might be kind of a bad thing to say as a vegan, but I actually like just watching like Food Network and watching the non-vegan chefs and kind of like seeing those meals and then just converting them using like good plant-based replacements for the things.
Yeah, I do the same thing. It's really easy, especially with baking, just finding regular recipes and then just substituting the vegan egg substitute.
Exactly.
Or the dairy. What's a good hamburger bun or bread alternative from?
So, I feel like this one, you can really take with this recipe. You could do anything. You could do corn tortillas and make it into like tacos since it's got the coleslaw. You can just put like flour wrap. If you're gluten-free, obviously, you could use any kind of like gluten-free bun or bread. You could just eat it with like in a bowl too.
Yeah, or I guess you could probably use a lettuce wrap too, which probably isn't as exciting, but
yeah, no, it'd still be good with that if you're trying to be even healthier. The mushrooms are super low calorie, so definitely different from pork in that way, but they end up being so good, which is nice because if anyone's trying to watch their calories and get a little bit more nutrients in their diet, this is a good way to do it without it seeming like you're doing that, because in the end, it just tastes like junk food.
That's a good point.
And somewhat is with like the vegan mayo and the coleslaw and everything, but it's still going to end up being a little bit less caloric and fatty.
And which vegan mayo did you use today or planning to?
I'm using just mayo. I mean, any vegan mayo will work. Just mayo I found like is a bit thicker. So I like it for this particular coleslaw, just because I don't want it to be super runny, you know?
Yeah, I don't know if I've tried that one. I think I've had the Follow Your Heart mayo, vegan mayo.
Is that Vegenaise, right?
Oh yeah, Vegenaise.
Yeah, exactly. Vegenaise is also my fave, but it's a little bit thinner. I mean, it's still like normal mayo, but I feel like they both taste exactly the same. It's just a little bit different thickness depending on what you want.
Definitely, yeah. And Sashi in the audience said that pulled pork prepared like this, the vegan pulled pork, also pairs well with baked beans if anyone wants to get a higher protein source with it. That sounds so nice too.
Yeah, I was trying to think of a side to do it with it, and I was like, you know, it's hard because it kind of goes well with everything. You could go really junk foody and get like potato salad or just like chips, or you could have it with like some fruit, like a peach or an apple or something, like depending on which direction you want to go.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, you can, many uses. Are there vegan fish substitutes from the audience?
Yes, there are. It depends on what you're looking for, but I'd say the most common is just like fried fish. Gardein makes a really good one that I use for fish tacos. It's just sold like frozen. Yeah, I'd highly recommend that one. Sophie's Kitchen also makes some really good different ones that are really good. Yeah, there's also tuna. Actually, one of the people that is in this class that was in the Alt Meat Challenge lab with me, they started a company, Impact Foods, and they're making like tuna for sushi instead of like shredded tuna, and it looks so good. I can't wait to try it.
That sounds so good. Have you tried Shizen in San Francisco, the sushi place?
Yes. Yes.
So good. I miss it. I haven't been there in a while. Definitely recommend that if you're in the Bay Area. Phenomenal vegan sushi.
So I'm gonna turn on my thing and put a little bit of oil in just so it can start heating up as I finally get to my last mushroom finally. Say about a tablespoon is probably a good amount to make sure that it doesn't stick to the pan. And so it looks like it's going to be a lot of mushrooms, but these are going to cook down. So don't be intimidated if you're ever making it and be like, this is way too many mushrooms.
Never too many mushrooms, in my opinion.
I don't think my thing turned on. Might have to go troubleshoot by making sure that this is plugged in where it plugs in.
Okay. If you just joined us, you can add any questions you have for Brittany in the chat.
All right, the power strip was not on, but technical issue fixed.
Awesome. What kind of oil do you use, Brittany?
So I'm just using olive oil because it doesn't ever get too high where the smoke point's an issue. Really, I think any oil, as long as it didn't have a super strong flavor, would work for it. So kind of just use whatever your preference is. Vegetable canola oil works. Avocado oil works, really anything.
I use, I don't know if you ever use coconut oil, but I use that a lot for cooking.
Yeah, so coconut oil, I feel like this one, you could probably get away with coconut oil since there's so many the flavor is going to be dominated by the barbecue sauce. Some things I shy away with coconut oil unless it adds to the flavor. It's really going to come through, but that's me just personally because actually my partner more does not like the taste of coconut, so I can manage with it, but he'll be like, this tastes like coconut, why? So
yeah, it does have a pretty strong flavor. I love it though. I love coconut, so I don't mind that.
yeah, exactly, same. So not really an issue for me, but
Oh no, I lost the session chat. Where did it go? Oh, here we go. Someone just asked, what's a good place to find vegan and predominantly plant-based recipes? That's a good question because there are so many good resources, but I'd love to know your thoughts, Brittany.
oh yeah, so like I said, this is another one where I'm not great. Normally, if I want a recipe for something, I will just look up the normal recipe and then I'll like find the one that's highest rated for just a normal, like, you know, animal-based version. And then I will just make the substitutes that I know are good. There's some really good substitutes for cheese and chicken and egg and everything. And so that's what I always recommend. I think nowadays recipes from plant-based places are definitely getting better, but you know, over 10 years ago when I first started getting into this, they weren't that good. And so I just kind of got in the habit of going more the traditional route and then swapping things. But I'd love to hear what your favorites were, Sam.
I mix it up. There are definitely a lot of great social media pages and Instagram pages I follow. Try to remember the names. I don't remember offhand, but I try to use cookbooks or use the internet because I don't need a reason to use Instagram for more time than I already do. So I have a few vegan cookbooks. There was actually one, Nina, that you recommended to me recently that I just bought. What was the name of it? I'm not being very helpful because I'm not remembering the names of my these. What was it? Hold on, I'm looking it up right now.
Well, in the meantime, if anyone is following along, I'm going to start making the coleslaw now. And so you'll take whatever vegan mayo you do have. Hopefully everyone can hear me over the sizzle of the mushrooms. Trying to speed up a bit. And so you'll take a 1/4 cup of that and just put it into like a medium-sized bowl. This recipe I'm only making is for 2. And so it's obviously you could just multiply it if you're making more, but it's not really going to make very much coleslaw, so you don't need that big of a bowl. And then my rule of thumb whenever I'm cooking something and trying to multitask is usually just like add one ingredient to what's the other thing that you're making and then go back and stir, just so you don't forget about it and burn anything. And so then you want to add the sugar into the coleslaw. And that's just 1 tablespoon.
I added a couple books in the chat that have been recommended to me, cookbooks.
Nice.
And Sashi, hi, if you're still here. Sashi is a phenomenal chef. She's one of my friends and she posts amazing recipes on Instagram. She's the Colorful Coach, so you should definitely follow her.
Nice.
And yeah, similar to you, Brittany, I really just I feel like regular recipes and then just veganize them and they usually come out fine.
Nice. And so for the coleslaw, then the next things are 1 teaspoon vinegar and also 1 teaspoon lemon juice, which I forgot in the kitchen, so I'm going to go grab that real fast.
I haven't heard of that one. Oh yeah, the Sweet Simple Vegan is phenomenal too. She's on Instagram and has a blog as well. And Vegetable Kingdom by Bryant Terry. Yeah, these are all great recommendations that I.
Yeah. All right, so both teaspoons of our acid have gone in there. And then so I add cumin and paprika. I add cumin and paprika to a lot of things just because I feel like it always makes it taste better. It's optional if you don't happen to have them because it will still turn out pretty good, but I add a 4th teaspoon of both. And I like smoked paprika, but it won't make that big of a difference if you just have normal paprika. Make sure I didn't forget anything myself. So then adding a little bit of salt and pepper. I don't want to add too much of at least salt. Pepper is kind of up to you. I'm a pepper fanatic, so I add a lot to everything. Then you'll want to just stir it up so it's actually all properly mixed. And if you are following along and have it toasted, your bread or whatever you're doing, whatever kind of starchy gluten thing you're using, now's a good time to toast it probably.
Brittany, have you ever tried making your own mayo? Someone from the audience said that you can make your own vegan mayo with aquafaba, which I've heard. I've never tried doing that.
Yeah, I have actually made it. I'm kind of weird and I'll have like everything around. So I have like soy lecithin around too, which is a really good emulsifier, which so you can make really good like oil and water emulsions like mayo. And so I have fun doing that, but at the same time, there's such good mayos that I usually am just lazy and just buy it.
Yeah, I feel that. There's a question from the audience that I think you might be able to answer, Brittany. It says, anyone from a meat-loving family, have you always had a plant-dominant diet? Curious about people's journeys to veganism. I get a lot of weird looks from my family when I refuse meat.
Oh yeah, I will definitely address on that since I, come from cattle ranchers and hunters, and everyone is still a meat eater in my family. Just want to say real quick that so now you'll just add about a cup and a half of coleslaw mix or shredded cabbage if you want to like actually cut your own cabbage. Once again, I'm going the lazy route. But yeah, I definitely got a lot of weird looks. I, for all our holiday gatherings, bring my own Tupperware of my meals. But slowly over time, I think everyone has realized that it's not as fanatical of a thing to eat plant-based, and they've become open to trying it and really liking it, and they'll ask for recipes and request that I make certain things. Usually it's not as much of the meat things. I'll try those at the dinners, but like the vegan cinnamon rolls, that's something where basically my family will yell at me if I don't bring them to holiday dinners. So, I think the longer that you do it, people get more used to it. And I think we're definitely coming into the time where it's a less weird thing to not eat meat, which is nice.
Brittany, remind me how long you've been plant-based for?
16 years.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
It's about the same amount of time as you, right?
I'm at 13 or 14 years, I think. So you're ahead.
Not by much, yeah.
Oh, wow. So you remember the days when the only options were soy milk and spaghetti.
And rice milk, which was not good, and it was kind of brown. I was like, oh man.
Gosh, yeah, we've come a long way since then.
Yeah. So the mushrooms should have mostly cooked down at this point. The coleslaw is all ready to go. I'm going to turn up the heat a bit on them because they haven't browned that much. And then maybe in the meantime, I will slice the red onion. So for this, I'm just going to do like a big, thick slice. Well, not that big, for both to match my buns.
Brittany, Sashi asked, how old were you when you went plant-based or vegan? 16 years is a long time, definitely is.
Yeah, I was 15.
Oh, that's awesome. And what was, remind me, what was your initial reason for transitioning your diet?
So I've always been super big animal lover, and so I think I always felt a bit hypocritical about eating animals, but it didn't, I still was able to have that disconnect that it's like, didn't really feel like an animal when I was eating meat. But I think with my mom kind of talking about hunting, and if they would just see a deer, they'd shoot it and skin it, like not to be too graphic, but I think I have the imagery in my head a bit more of what actually goes into making meat. And so I just had a little bit of guilt. And so one day I was eating a turkey sandwich, which I loved at the time. And it just, I don't know, it looked like the inside of an animal for me for once. And I was just like, oh gosh, I don't want to do this anymore. And so I Googled like how to be vegetarian, and an article came up and it was like, well, if you're wanting to be vegetarian, why don't you try being vegan for a bit? Like if you're trying to be vegetarian for the animals, a lot of really bad things happen for eggs. A lot of really bad things happen for dairy. Like, 80% of dairy cows end up being hamburger meat. They're not treated great. Obviously, chickens are not treated great at all. And so I was just like, well, I'll try it for a week. And it ended up being easier than I expected. And then I kind of learned the health benefits, environmental benefits, and just never went back. It was just, I really enjoyed it. And, it was, you had to make a little bit of sacrifices earlier on when there weren't as good of things. But I think nowadays it's just, there's so many good replacements. It's more about figuring out what those replacements are and then just stocking those instead of stocking chicken, or just going to the place that has vegan options instead of going to the place that doesn't,
Yeah, I can relate so much to your story, but you said you took a full plunge into veganism, right? You didn't start as a vegetarian.
Sorry, what'd you say?
You said you went straight into being fully vegan, or did you start as vegetarian?
Yeah, I went straight into being fully vegan. Just because I was like, well, if I'm gonna try it for a week, it's not gonna make that big of a difference if I do either. For me personally, at least, I think that everyone has their own way of doing it. But for me, I did it like that, and it just stuck.
That's awesome. It was a transition for me. I started vegetarian and then eventually went into being vegan because dairy was a lot harder for me than meat because I was so attached to cheese.
Yeah, cheese was a tough one, especially, as you know, back in the day, it wasn't that great.
Definitely.
So at this point, just going to add a bit of salt and pepper and also cayenne, because the mushrooms have got to the point where they are cooked down and getting a little crispy. So if you don't like things spicy, you can skip the cayenne, but honestly, it's like such a small amount that I add that I think it just adds to the flavor. It doesn't really make it spicy.
Brittany, what are your favorite vegan cheeses from the audience?
Favorite vegan cheeses? I really like basically everything from Violife. I think they're great. 365 actually, Whole Foods came out with their own brand of like smoked Gouda and cheddar slices that are really good. Follow Your Heart also makes them good, just like American slices. And then there's a new brand, Carmela Creamery, that I just tried like 2 weeks ago for their American. It's really good. I don't know. There's a lot of really good ones.
Yeah, there's too many to keep up with.
Yeah, I have not tried them all. They just keep coming out, and I'm like, I want them all.
It's tough. Yeah, there's so many good ones. I don't know if you mentioned Miyoko's, but Miyoko's is so good. Miyoko will be speaking here today.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So now it's just adding a 4th cup of barbecue sauce. I'm just going to use the same one I put mayo in because, you know, it's only going to make it better. And then at this point, it is just about stirring the barbecue sauce and letting it cook down for about 2 or 3 minutes. And then it is ready to eat. Yeah, speaking of guest speakers, if you wanted to have this be a plant-based alternative instead of having it be mushrooms, I would highly recommend tofurkey chicken strips. They are so good in barbecue sauce, on anything, just eating them on their own, eating them in a burger. They're my favorite.
Definitely. I'm excited for that talk later as well.
Oh yeah, the Miyoko smoked mozzarella on pizza. It's so good.
It's delicious.
All right, well, I think it is all cooked up on this side. Smells delicious.
Jordan said that she wishes she could try the dish. It looks so good. I feel the same way. It's hard just staring at this and not being able to eat it.
I know, yesterday during George's, I was like, oh, I want it so bad. Why didn't I freeze tofu in advance? Torture. All right, so I like making mine with putting the big slice of onion on the bottom just because it adds like some structural integrity to it and gives a really nice crunch. Make sure I got the bottom right.
And Brittany, just to keep you updated on the time, it's about 12:35.
Awesome. It ends at 12:45, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. Well, they are all ready. So either people can have a break or have any questions once I finish up in a bit. So basically, disclaimer, these are very sloppy. I would eat them over a plate. Maybe put like on some kind of barrier between you and your clothes if you're there's a chance that you'll drop it on them and you care about that. All right, and then for coleslaw, it's kind of up to you how much you want. I wouldn't say put too much. I normally just put like a spoonful or two, depending. If you're doing normal hamburger buns, probably only needs a spoonful. If you're doing these kind of massive pretzel buns that I have, probably good to put two.
That looks so good, Brittany. Is that for you and Sean today?
Yes, we're both really excited about it.
I'm so jealous. I want
one. Sean and your partner as well have been our great IT tech support for the symposium, helping us out on this new switch to this new platform.
They have. Shout out to Stefan and Sean if you're listening in for being our
So here's the finished product. I'm really excited about it.
Wait, Brittany, put it back on the screen really quick. I'm just going to take a quick picture of it. That looks amazing. Got it. Wow, that looks so good.
Also really good served with like pickle spears on the side. If you like pickles. And then I can move this back up to do any, not sure if there are any questions remaining.
Don't see any questions yet. Does anyone have more questions? Someone said they regret not cooking along too.
I'll do a little taste test and probably get it all over myself, but I am very hungry.
Oh, it looks so good.
It's so good.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to have to recreate that at home. Maybe today.
It's so delicious.